What's up? My name's Kevin, and this is my review of The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, which was awesome. The film was so awesome. I was so happy, the way it ended, the way it started. There are only two things about the film that really came up to me and was actually kind of annoying to me, but everything else, trust me, was great. I gave the film like an 8 out of 10. It was really great. The only small things that bugged me was how fast the film was. It really jumped into third gear right off the bat. And the second thing was the amount of CGI used in the film. And yeah, the CGI was really too much. Like, I obviously, for example, in Lord of the Rings, You Return of the King, during the battle with the besieging of Minas Tirith, like, CGI was used widely in the battle sequences, and to besiege Minas Tirith. But like, there were still lots of parts of practical effects where you actually physically see an orc who was had prosthetics on him and all that, and there was a lot more of that kind of stuff out there in that movie. Where this one, it's not so much. It's like in Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, it was like a 60-40 split between CGI and practical effects, which was a great mix because you really couldn't tell what was real and was not. But in this film, at least from what I saw in IMAX 3D, it was more like a 70-30 split. It wasn't like, it was over, and I wasn't very happy with it. Like, it was still a great, battle sequences. It was really awesome, yeah, it was just too much for me overall, the amount of CGI used in this film. And actually, the funny thing is, I remember, if you don't know, like, Rotten Tomatoes does like, their critics, and they give their, they fail a film where they'll give it under, like, 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5, whatever you want to call it, or they'll pass it and it'll do good. They'll give it a 5, like 6, 7, 8, whatever you want to call it. They give it a good review, and it was at 79% on Flickster, and this film like fell within 2 days to like 63, and I started to get really worried. Like, obviously, I didn't know that actually that The Hobbit: The Unexpected Journey was around 61 or 62%, but I didn't expect this film to fall that fast. And then I posted on Facebook, and people were saying, don't worry about it. Critics like hating on Peter Jackson. It's like, how can you say that? Look at Lord of the Rings trilogy. There was like a 90% constantly that critics were giving through all those three films. But I was still a little skeptical, and they told me not to worry about it. And like 83% of the audience members at that time had loved it. So I went and watched it, and then now I can understand why some of the critics were kind of turned off because of the amount of CGI. It's like, it's too pure of something. You always want a mix of 60-40 split between CGI and practical effects used in battle sequences. It's a good blend, and it can cover each other's asses when big battles come up, and it's really hard to make it look real. Make it look real without CGI being overblown in that sequence. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So yeah, it was great, but the CGI is just way too much, and now I understand why critics kind of blew it down really fast when the amount of CGI that was used in that film was just way too much. It's still a great film. Don't kill me for it. I just have to tell you what I think, and that's it. Like, I'm actually going to see The Hobbit again in a normal format theater, so it won't be IMAX 3D. So maybe there might be stuff that I missed, or I should take back, or like lessen down. Maybe see a little bit less about CGI being bad. I just thought it was just too much CGI used in the film overall. And now, like I said, and now moving on, I think this film, like I said, jumps in the third gear really, really fast. Like with Smaug, I don't want to give away too much spoilers, but Smaug does get killed in the first 10 minutes. And then it goes on from there, being, really starting to move on toward the Battle of the Five Armies. But things really jump up. Like, I'm surprised this movie was 2 hours. Cause I thought I saw at least half the movie in the first hour, with Smaug being killed, and then the big battle sequences, with the five armies. Yeah, actually, sorry, not all the five armies actually show up at the same time. It's kind of situational. Because I know the dwarves and the elves show up first, and then the orcs show up, and then what was the other ones? And then they show the bats later on. And the bats do eventually show up. Bats in the second army, like, spoiler, there's actually two orc armies in this film. The bats do show up, but it's not until near the end of the film. Like, it's a good film, and Peter Jackson has already said, come out in record saying, the extended edition will have a lot more of what he would have liked to put in, but obviously they have to make an extended edition, which is like a money making thing. I fucking hate it, but it's my own. So the extended edition, he said, will have a lot more. We'll actually see a lot more of the battles that we didn't see from him cutting that out. So, I look forward to seeing that. I will say there's one scene that I remember seeing from the trailer that was never in the movie, was that scene where all the dwarves, it was an army of dwarves, but they're on those horned sheep with, the armor on them, and they're coming down the hill. That was never in the film. You can look back at the trailer, and you can see that a couple second scene, and it's never in the movie. So that's probably going to be in there. I'm hoping we'll see more of Beorn. B-A, I try to pronounce his name right. He's a skin changer. He shows up. Radagast and Beorn do show up for the battle, but they show up for maybe a minute, and then that's it. So I'm hoping we'll have more scenes and battles with them involved. It's just so and Beorn does change into a bear. Don't worry, there's a decent scene of him kicking some ass there. So with Radagast, and then also seeing Dale being destroyed, and it's quite big, it's quite large, and then seeing Thorn also kind of turn into a bit of a jackass, because he's the whole dragon sickness with the gold takes control of him, and he starts turning a bit of a dumbass. So, and then they end up hiding inside the mountain while everybody else fights outside against the orcs. And it was that was kind of sketchy. I didn't like that. It kind of flipped from inside the mountain to outside the battle, inside the mountain, outside the battle. In and out. And it was actually time I thought it was nighttime and the fight was over, and they actually flipped back outside. It was still light outside. So I don't know what the fuck. That was a little bit of a negative, I'll say. The way the amount of flipping back and forth between the battles and Thorn was. But it was still a great film, and also I want to mention too about, obviously we know that Gandalf, by the end of the Desolation of Smaug, is captured by Sauron, and he's sending his army to Dol Guldur, and at this point, also, at the start of the film, it does kind of, it flips between after Smaug is killed, and then it starts to flip back and forth from what happens on Lonely Mountain to what's happening with Gandalf. So what happens with Gandalf, it's pretty awesome actually when Galadriel walks in and then destroys this one orc and then releases Gandalf, and then all shit starts coming loose with Elrond showing up, Saruman showing up, and they're the power struggle. Oh my god, so fucking awesome. 'Cause it's great to see the White Council physically do something against Sauron, because obviously from the Lord of the Rings we never see that. It's more of an indirect thing where they're they're guiding the Fellowship, and they're saying bad things like the world is going to end. It's what the fuck? Why are you sitting on your ass and not helping in Lord of the Rings? So, and then in this film we get what we didn't get in Lord of the Rings for the White Council and Saruman. He's still playing good, and by the end of the scene with Sauron, he does hint of how he becomes corrupt. So, but Saruman still kicks some ass with the Nazgul showing up, and the Nazgul don't actually look like what they're, what they look like in Lord of the Rings. They're more of a corporeal form of what they used to look like as men in armor and all that. But that was a whole awesome scene, and then right from Galadriel, forces Sauron away, and she uses her powers. It was so awesome. That scene was great. So it was really great that Peter Jackson, I really think he did not just emphasize on the big action scenes. It's about the small details that matter to fans, because it's like Transformers, for fuck's sake. Big action scenes, small details that mean a lot, and he never has them there, but Peter Jackson does. See the Dol Guldur thing, he could have cut that thing out of the whole movie from all three films, but he didn't, because that was connected to Lord of the Rings. So I think that's how Peter Jackson really looked at how, okay, this is what happens But Sauron is, he's banished from Dol Guldur, but he does go to Mordor, and it's openly say that Elrond openly says that, okay, Sauron is going to flee to the east, and we must go after him. And then Saruman stops him, says, "No, let me deal with Sauron." And I think that's a hint at his corruption in the future. So I'm hoping there is a more scene to that. Like, obviously, I'm really happy that we saw the White Council really whip some ass on Sauron, and that whole sequence is really great. I don't want to give away too much, but it's a really great sequence of action and awesomeness. So yeah, it was really great. I'm hoping in the extended edition there'll be more scenes with what happens with Saruman. Like it isn't. It's like an indirect thing where all deal with Sauron, but what do you mean by dealing with him? So it'd be really cool to see him actually show up in Mordor or something. It's like, I pledge my allegiance or some weird thing or whatever. So it'd be really cool to see that. So like, this film, by the end of it all, it may be very emotional because I have like lots of fans like you, fans of whoever's watching this, obviously. I've seen all the Lord of the Rings books, or I've seen all the movies, and maybe I've read the books, and you've become very entangled and attached to this franchise just because of how in depth and lush it is. Very lush, in depth, and absorbing. I'm using random words here, but it's very absorbing. When someone watches it and they're actually open to something like that, Lord of the Rings, then they start to become very, I need to see more. And yeah, like I'm like that. Like you could do, like as long as they could do tons of Lord of the Rings movies, if they can make sure it connects to everything and looks great, and it's under Peter Jackson, and he could continue making films like this, it could be shovels right into my mouth like food. As long as it's good, keep giving it to me. I'm not trying to sound weird there, but that's how much. I kind of know a lot of people have been screaming for the Silmarillion, or at least something between what happens after the Return of the King will be cool. But that script could take like years to make sure it looks good, because really if they made a movie after that and it was shit, then it really shits on the Return of the King, because it was such an inclusive franchise that it really leaves no area to make more movies unless you want to go beyond what Tolkien had in his books. So yeah, it'd be really good. But yeah, this film really ties up a lot of the ends of how actually, spoiler, Legolas meets Aragorn. Relax, Aragorn doesn't make Viggo Mortensen does not make an appearance. He is mentioned as Strider in a scene at the very end with Legolas. Watch for that, and then now we'll know how Legolas knows Aragorn at the Council of Elrond when he goes up to defend him against Boromir. So and then you'll know what that means. And what else? Gandalf does know that Bilbo has the ring. Trust me, that was like the funniest things. I never thought that Gandalf would just straight out come out and say, "Okay, Bilbo," because this is near the end of the movie, and Bilbo openly knows, or Gandalf openly knows that. Bilbo has a ring, but he doesn't know. I think he indirectly knows it's the Ring of Power, but he wants to keep it hidden for the time being for some reason, being at Sauron's back, and they, just for now, because it takes 60 years for Sauron to really regain what he lost. Like, he was just starting to build his power back up when he was in Dol Guldur, and then he gets banished, and his powers are kind of wiped out, in a sense, and then it takes him 50, 60 years to kind of regain his power. It's kind of weird that they wouldn't go after Sauron in the next 60 years between Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. It's kind of surprising that Elrond or Saruman is one of them, or at least Elrond wouldn't, really force Saruman to fight Sauron at some point in that time, because it's just kind of stupid to sit on your ass and let your bad guy, do his evil plotting for the next 60 years, and then it's just kind of weird. But other than that, guys, God, there's so much in that film. It was great to see Dale. What happened? I don't want to give away too much, but there was a huge catapult troll scene that was awesome. And seeing Azog die. Azog dies by the end of this film, and obviously, spoiler alert, Thorin does die. And it becomes, at that point on, becomes very emotional, because that's the end of the film. That's kind of how it's ending. We all knew Thorin would die. That's the end of the 7 rings for the dwarves. Like, I kind of ends that lineage for them. So yeah, it was really great. And then you see Bilbo leave, and he's on his way home. And then by the end of the film, like it basically, Peter Jackson pretty much connects the movies from this one to the Fellowship. I'm not gonna say how, but you watch it; it's really great. It connects it right off the bat to the Fellowship. It's so awesome. But yeah, this film really, it changed me. It really does. Like this whole franchise. I remember reading the books for Lord of the Rings back in grade. I think it was between 7 and 9. I read the books, and they were so rich, and I would fall asleep. Like, just reading them, they were so good. They were almost just as good as a glass of warm milk. Like, it was just so great. And I'm very saddened to see this go. Like, I'm hoping Peter Jackson does come back to do something related to Middle Earth. A lot of us want to see that, but ever since they've been really promoting the one last time, going against that might actually be a bad promotional thing. So it depends where they go with that. The funniest thing is, I was actually mentioned, or a friend of mine told me, wouldn't it be good if they actually went back not to the Silmarillion, to when Isildur, basically the heir of Gondor back then during the Battle of the Last Alliance, when he doesn't destroy the ring, what happens to him after, or what happens during his life, or after he dies, what happens? It'd be a much darker period of time, but it'd be really great to even stitch in those spots. Like, it'd be great to see from movie to movie to movie, and what happens, and stitch continuities would be connected. It'd be really awesome to see that. But The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, and then hearing the Billy Boyd song at the very end, it just brought me to tears, to tell you the truth, because I'm such a fan of that stuff. And obviously, if you've seen my Google page, or my Google Plus, whatever you want to call it. I actually got the cast iron poster for the Battle of the Five Armies from the London premiere, which I had to have. I had none of Lord of the Rings. I had one Hobbit Desolation of Smaug one, but unfortunately got a little bit ripped. I'm hoping to fix it. But yeah, this franchise has been probably even closer than Star Wars. To tell you the truth, I think it's even closer because they've made so many. All their films have been great. There's never been a fall off, in my own opinion, in any of the films and what they are and what they represent for Professor Tolkien. So, God, I'm trying to think of anything else I could talk about. There's a lot to talk about I don't want to give away, but this film is really great. And I'm going to see it again, and if I think there's more I want to talk about, then I'll make another video. But I hope very much that you enjoyed this video with me talking about the Hobbit, and from the scenes, from the people in the movie, and where it's opening to the Fellowship, and like I hope I covered everything here. If I think I missed something, then please comment to me. But this film it'll change you. If you're a true fan of the Hobbit and stuff like that, and Lord of the Rings, then it will change you. And I always say to those who are haters to this book being made 3 films, don't be haters, because before it's the end, and then what are you gonna hate then? If all these films were so great and now they're done, they may be 20 years before we see any rumbles of another one. So don't hate it. Like I said, as long as they keep making quality films for the Middle Earth, it's like a shovel, it's like a spoon in my mouth. I'll keep buying into it. Because they're high quality films that only mean to make us happy, for reading the books and the material coming to life from the books and stuff like that. So yeah, I just don't be a hater. Like I love this stuff so much, and I only want to see the best for it. So I think that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If I think there's more I want to talk about The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, then I'll make a part 2 video. And to tell you the truth, I should not have any more problems with my video camera. I just bought a $125 camera, a Logitech C90, something like that. Not cheap, but I got tired of dealing with the other one. Because it was a fucked up piece of shit. Pardon my language. Sorry. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm trying to think of a good saying right now. I'm trying to think of a good saying from The Hobbit. Hashtag not going to be the last time, I'm hoping. Peace out.